In the private dining rooms of Manhattan's most exclusive skyscrapers, and behind velvet curtains in Dubai's desert resorts, billionaires are eating gold. Not investing in it. Not locking it away in vaults. But literally consuming it, shaved over prime Kobe beef, layered into mille-feuille pastries, sprinkled atop caviar, or carefully wrapped around a single piece of Otoro sushi. It's a trend that seems absurd at first glance, a wasteful flex of wealth, perhaps even a tasteless one. But dig deeper, and there's a strategy behind every shimmering leaf of edible gold. It's about power, perception, and presentation, and the prices that come with that sparkle go far beyond the food bill. Gold leaf is odorless, tasteless, and inert. It won't change the flavor of your truffle risotto or Wagyu steak. It won't provide any nutritional value or magical health benefit. So why does a billionaire pay $1,500 for a golden tomahawk steak or $500 for a cappuccino dusted with 24-karat flakes? Because gold isn't added to food for taste, it's added for symbolism. Across every civilization that's ever existed, gold has represented status, purity, and immortality. To serve gold is to elevate a meal into a ritual, to signal that what's happening at that table is not mere eating, it's theater, wealth on display, an unspoken contract of exclusivity. In some parts of the world, especially in Middle Eastern luxury hotels or private events in Asia, gold-covered dishes aren't just gimmicks, they're expectations. When the bill runs into the tens of thousands, diners expect an experience no one else can access. That's where gold comes in. A 24-karat gold-wrapped steak in Abu Dhabi isn't just dinner. It's proof that the chef has access to the world's rarest ingredients and that the guest is wealthy enough to consume something most people only invest in. In these circles, edible gold is a flex, but also a tool for crafting an image of success, invincibility, even immortality. What makes this even more fascinating is the behind-the-scenes market that supplies these glimmering touches. Edible gold, unlike jewelry gold, must meet strict safety and purity standards. It's usually made from 23 to 24-karat gold, hammered into impossibly thin sheets, often thinner than a human hair. A single gram of gold leaf can produce up to 2 square meters of coverage, making it light enough to sit atop a chocolate truffle without collapsing it. And yet, despite how little gold is used per dish, the final cost can be astronomical. A gold-covered sushi roll in Las Vegas can sell for $1,000. A golden cake in Singapore, commissioned for a billionaire's birthday, was priced at $35,000. Not because of the ingredients, but because of what the gold represents. Luxury chefs who cater to the ultra-wealthy often describe gold as their silence ingredient. It doesn't speak in flavor, but in status. One Dubai-based chef explained that gold is the only ingredient that doesn't get questioned by billionaire clients. You can swap out truffle for caviar, foie gras for Wagyu, but take away the gold, and the perceived luxury drops instantly. It's not even about liking it. In fact, most clients don't care how it tastes. They care that it's there, on the table, in the photos, on Instagram, in their guests' memories. This obsession has created a global supply chain around edible gold. There are specialist ateliers in Italy, Germany, and Japan dedicated to manufacturing culinary gold leaf. They hammer and fold the metal using traditional techniques refined over centuries, packaging it into tissue-thin booklets or powdered vials for elite kitchens across the world. And the prices reflect the craftsmanship. A single booklet of 25 gold leaves can sell for over $200. One luxury distributor reported sending over 50,000 sheets annually just to one hotel chain in the Gulf. That's gold, not for vaults or investment portfolios, but for dessert carts and cocktail rims. But it's not just Middle Eastern sheiks or Asian billionaires fueling this trend. In cities like New York, London, and Los Angeles, luxury restaurants are integrating gold into their most exclusive menus, not only to satisfy elite palates but to go viral. A $1,000 golden sundae in Manhattan isn't just for the diner, it's for the social media storm it triggers. A billionaire influencer might post it once, and suddenly the restaurant is booked out for weeks. In this sense, gold is the ultimate marketing ingredient. It sparks attention, conversation, and validation. For the rich, it's a badge of lifestyle. For chefs, it's brand equity. But let's talk numbers. How much does it actually cost to eat gold? The raw gold content on a steak may only be worth $5 to $10. But once it's applied, arranged, and delivered with the right fanfare, it becomes a $1,500 spectacle. That markup isn't just about the ingredient, it's about the service, the ambience, and the rare psychological trigger that gold activates. The idea that you're consuming something eternal. That you're above consequence, even above mortality. And in a world where billionaires build space rockets and buy private islands, spending 4 figures on a golden coffee feels like a casual Tuesday. There's also a quiet cultural tension in all this. In many traditional societies, gold in food was once a royal privilege. In medieval Europe, nobles were served gold-coated bread or gilded meats at banquets. In ancient Japan, gold flakes were floated in sake during imperial ceremonies. Today, those traditions are reinterpreted by chefs aiming to recreate that same aura of royalty, but for paying clients rather than monarchs. This isn't just culinary indulgence, it's historical reenactment, filtered through the lens of modern luxury. Of course, not everyone sees this trend as elegant. Some critics argue it reflects the worst excesses of wealth, a grotesque spectacle of inequality. When headlines circulate about billionaires eating golden burgers while millions go hungry, it creates a backlash. But the irony is, this criticism only adds to the mystique. The more people talk about it, positively or negatively, the more powerful gold becomes as a symbol. It thrives on controversy. Its silence, its sparkle, its untouchability, it's all part of the myth. And yet, even in this spectacle, there are surprising moments of intention. Some chefs claim they use gold not just for drama, but as a way to slow people down, to make them pause, take in the presentation, and savor the moment. One Michelin-starred chef in Tokyo said his golden sashimi platter isn't about wealth, it's about reverence. Gold forces silence, he said. Even billionaires stop talking when they see it. Whether or not that's true, it's clear that edible gold isn't going away. If anything, it's becoming more entrenched in the ritual of luxury dining. But behind every shimmering dish lies a quiet infrastructure that most diners never see. Before a single gold leaf lands on a steak or sushi roll, it has to pass through an intricate and highly specialized pipeline. A pipeline built not for mass production, but for precision, purity, and prestige. The process begins with sourcing the highest grade of gold, typically 99.99% pure. While industrial gold used in electronics or bullion bars can tolerate trace elements, edible gold must be chemically inert and entirely free of toxicity. That's why most culinary gold isn't mined in bulk from high-volume operations. Instead, it's derived from boutique refineries that cater specifically to artistic or culinary markets, where purity trumps volume. Once refined, the gold is passed on to artisans. Yes, literal goldsmiths, who specialize in transforming solid bullion into sheets so thin, they become almost weightless. These artisans operate in places like Kanazawa, Japan, or Florence, Italy, where centuries-old traditions of gold beating are still preserved. Using wooden hammers, delicate tissue layers, and hand-tuned machinery, they stretch each ingot into whisper-thin sheets just 1/10,000th of a millimeter thick. The labor is painstaking, often involving over 3,000 manual strikes to achieve the desired thinness. At this stage, even a breath can damage the product. That's why many gold leaf makers work in climate-controlled rooms with minimal airflow, wearing special gloves and masks to avoid contamination. The resulting sheets are so fragile they can't be touched by hand. Instead, artisans use bamboo tweezers and brushes made of squirrel hair to transfer them onto waxed paper or into glass vials. Some are flattened into squares and stored in special paper books, while others are ground into fine powder or rolled into flakes for easier culinary application. From there, they are packed and shipped, not in bulk, but in batches often valued in thousands of dollars, despite weighing less than a bag of sugar. These are sent to luxury hotels, elite catering companies, Michelin-starred kitchens, and private chefs working on yachts and in mountain chalets. The delivery itself is often accompanied by instructions, not recipes, but handling protocols. Once in the kitchen, gold becomes the final act in a carefully choreographed performance. It's never added early in the cooking process. It would burn, melt, or disintegrate. Instead, it's applied at the very last moment, like a royal signature. A chef might use tweezers to lay a leaf across a lamb chop, or a gold brush to dust a dome of chocolate mousse. In one Dubai hotel, a pastry chef uses air compressors and stencils to spray gold dust over sugar sculptures, turning desserts into gilded art. The visual impact is immediate, and that's the point. No one forgets the moment gold arrives at the table. It's not meant to blend in. It's meant to stop the conversation. Interestingly, the rise of edible gold has created new roles in the kitchen. Gold handlers, sometimes called leaf specialists, who are trained exclusively to apply gold in precise, photogenic ways. These are not traditional chefs, but visual stylists who understand how gold interacts with lighting, humidity, and temperature. Their job is to ensure the gold doesn't tear, wilt, or stick where it shouldn't. In high-end restaurants, some even collaborate with photographers to stage dishes before they're served. For billionaires who expect every plate to be Instagram-ready, these specialists are as critical as the chef who sears the steak. The economics behind this are startling. While the actual weight of gold on a dish may be less than 0.01 grams, worth just a few dollars at market value, the service, labor, and exclusivity inflate the cost dramatically. This is where luxury pricing enters a different universe. You're not paying for what's on the plate. You're paying for what it represents, a barrier to entry, a message, a story. Gold tells your guests, you've arrived. It tells the world, this moment was worth more than practicality. And in elite social circles, that's a currency more valuable than the metal itself. There's also a curious psychological effect at play. When diners see gold on a plate, something in the brain changes. Studies in consumer behavior have shown that visual cues associated with wealth, like gold, crystal, or marble, can increase perceived value even when the actual product remains the same. That means a standard chocolate tart priced at $12 can be sold for $75 if dusted with gold. A cocktail that costs $18 becomes a $250 signature experience with just a few flakes in the foam. It's irrational, but that's the nature of luxury. It bypasses logic and appeals to aspiration. And the demand continues to grow. In India, gold has long been used in sweets like varak to honor gods and guests. In China, gold is floated in rice wine for weddings. Now, the West is catching up, not through tradition but through spectacle. The social media era has accelerated this trend dramatically. A decade ago, golden food was niche. Now, it's a status marker. Influencers chase it, luxury hotels market it, and billionaires demand it. And with that demand, the supply chain adapts. More artisans, more refiners, more handlers, more custom orders. But not everyone is buying into the glitter. Some critics within the culinary world argue that gold on food is an empty gesture, a triumph of show over substance. Legendary chefs like Anthony Bourdain once called it the worst kind of gimmick, arguing that good food should speak for itself, without needing precious metals. Others say it's performative excess, especially in a world where hunger and inequality are still rampant. The question is valid. What does it say about a society when we're gilding our meals while others starve? Yet the answer, for billionaires at least, is simple. Gold is not about feeding the body, it's about feeding the brand. A billionaire isn't just consuming a dish, they're crafting an image. A golden cocktail isn't just a drink, it's a signature. A steak wrapped in gold isn't indulgence, it's armor. In a world where reputation is capital, and perception drives power, the food becomes a stage. Gold is the spotlight. And billionaires? They're not just the audience. They're the show. This is why you'll find gold not only on plates, but woven into experiences. A private dinner on a rooftop overlooking Monaco's Grand Prix, ending with gold-dusted macarons and vintage champagne. A sushi master flown in from Tokyo to prepare hand-rolled uni with a crown of edible gold, served on a $50,000 antique plate. A breakfast in Beverly Hills where even the butter is shaped with golden flecks, served to guests arriving in helicopters. These aren't isolated events, they're rituals designed to project invulnerability, influence, and exclusivity. Even tech billionaires, typically known for their casual wardrobes and minimalist lifestyles, have embraced this paradox. Some host events where the food is purposefully humble, except for one golden centerpiece. A bowl of ramen served with a single golden egg. A vegan burger crowned with a shimmering gold leaf. It's a wink to tradition, and a nod to power. Because in the world of ultra-wealth, gold doesn't need to make sense. It just needs to be seen and remembered. In the pursuit of influence, every detail matters, down to the particles floating in a cup of coffee. For billionaires, even something as routine as a morning latte becomes an opportunity for narrative control. In luxury hotels from Tokyo to Geneva, the so-called gold cappuccino has become a staple of high-tier service, served with a smooth layer of microfoam crowned by an intricate pattern dusted in 24-karat flakes. The flavor doesn't change. The temperature remains the same. But the moment the cup is placed on the table, it becomes a statement. A disposable act transformed into a photo opportunity, luxury disguised as leisure. This is where the deeper psychology of edible gold becomes impossible to ignore. Gold in food isn't just an aesthetic choice. It's a psychological amplifier. And the effect starts long before a bite is taken. When a billionaire sees gold on a plate or inside a cup, they're not seeing an ingredient, they're seeing affirmation. It validates their position. It tells them the world is bending to their preferences, that their presence is acknowledged, anticipated, celebrated. That kind of power is addictive, and chefs, hoteliers, and luxury brands know it. They don't serve gold for flavor. They serve it to reinforce the myth of exceptionalism. And it's working. In the modern luxury ecosystem, edible gold has become more than a novelty, it's a currency of attention. High-end restaurants that were once private enclaves now rely on visibility, virality, and exclusivity as intertwined marketing tools. Serving gold triggers headlines, tags, and reposts. A single golden sushi roll posted by the right celebrity can attract more diners than a Michelin star. This is why chefs in Los Angeles or Paris are willing to absorb the added cost of edible gold, because it pays for itself in exposure. One gold-covered dessert can become the face of a venue's identity for years, making it part of the establishment's mythology. And while the outside world often sees gold-laced dishes as simple extravagance, for those within the industry, it's strategic. Gold serves as a gateway to higher pricing. Once a dish includes gold, expectations shift. Suddenly, you're not just selling food, you're selling fantasy, theater, and memory. That gives restaurants and chefs permission to raise prices, introduce package-only menus, or build custom experiences around a single golden item. In some private clubs, meals featuring edible gold are only available to gold tier members, not as a literal requirement, but as symbolic alignment between material and client. If you dine with gold, you belong to gold. But this practice isn't limited to restaurants and private chefs. The inclusion of gold has extended into the booming luxury catering and gifting industries, where exclusivity is the ultimate product. Corporations now commission edible gold arrangements, chocolate pyramids dusted in gold flakes, or caviar towers capped with golden pearls, as power gestures in boardroom events. Billionaire birthdays are staged around themes like the Age of Gold, where every element, from the wine glasses to the dessert cutlery, incorporates some hint of the precious metal. And in the gifting economy, high-value clients are sent personalized treats, like gold-infused honey or golden tea blends, not because they're particularly delicious, but because they send a message: you are above everyone else. It's worth noting that edible gold, while safe to consume in small quantities, is completely non-digestible. The human body can't absorb it, can't convert it to energy or use it for any biological process. It passes through the system unchanged. And perhaps that, more than anything, is the perfect metaphor for the way gold functions in luxury dining. It doesn't feed the body. It feeds the perception. It is consumed for the act of consumption itself, not to nourish, but to symbolize one's place in a world where even the waste must glitter. And yet, as strange as it sounds, not all applications of edible gold are driven by ego. In some rare instances, gold is used as a form of reverence, a subtle gesture meant to honor rather than display. In Kyoto, traditional tea ceremonies sometimes end with a gold-touched sweet, not to show wealth, but to mirror the sacred nature of the ritual. In Rome, A chef might use a tiny gold flake atop a dish prepared to honor a departed loved one, equating the metal's permanence with memory. These aren't common, but they remind us that gold isn't inherently vulgar. It's the context that shapes the story. In that light, the real power of edible gold may lie not in its cost, but in its flexibility. It can be sacred or profane, minimalist or excessive, silent or screaming. It can be the centerpiece of a billion-dollar wedding or the quiet shimmer on a private lunch aboard a yacht. And in every case, it becomes more than just decoration. It becomes a device, a communicator, a mirror held up to the diner's identity, or the one they wish to project. Take, for example, the growing trend of gold-dusted vegan food among Silicon Valley elites. It may seem contradictory. Plant-based, environmentally conscious dishes laced with one of the world's most resource-intensive metals. But that contradiction is precisely the point. The gold doesn't clash with the philosophy, it elevates it. A simple bowl of vegan soba becomes a $400 experience with the right packaging and a whisper of metallic glow. For these tech titans, who build their brands on progress and disruption, gold isn't about old money extravagance. It's about blending prestige with minimalism, rewriting the language of luxury to suit their own image. Then there are the collectors. Yes, collectors. A niche but growing group of ultra-high net worth individuals have begun commissioning edible gold items not to eat, but to display. One art patron in Qatar ordered a series of golden truffles from a Parisian chocolatier, housed in crystal cases and rotated monthly. Another tycoon in South Korea collaborated with a sushi master to create a golden tuna installation. Never served, never consumed, only photographed. For these clients, the boundary between cuisine, sculpture, and brand identity has collapsed entirely. The gold isn't for the mouth. It's for the myth. And this myth continues to evolve. In recent years, luxury experiences have begun including rituals around gold itself. Private spa treatments that end with edible gold masks. Meditation retreats where participants are offered gold-dusted herbal tea as a final symbol of inner clarity. Even luxury fashion brands have partnered with gourmet companies to create pop-up events where gold appears not on clothing, but on cupcakes. The lines between indulgence, self-expression, and consumption blur further with each passing year, and gold continues to sit at the center of this new ceremonial economy. In the end, edible gold is less about the metal and more about the message. It whispers exclusivity, suggests immortality, and promises a moment that others will envy. It serves no physical function, offers no essential nutrition, and holds no flavor. And yet, it holds attention, which, in the world of billionaires, is the most valuable commodity of all. For those outside the billionaire circle, it's tempting to dismiss edible gold as pure vanity, an expensive sparkle meant to flaunt wealth and provoke envy. But that assumption misses the complexity of how billionaires interact with status, perception, and influence. In truth, gold in food is often less about personal indulgence and more about the invisible power dynamics at play in elite circles. Every golden plate serves a function beyond nourishment. It sends a message not only to those present, but to the wider world watching through social media, news coverage, and whispered retellings in exclusive rooms. It's a way of signaling that even the most basic act, eating, is done on an entirely different plane. And it begins with control. Billionaires, more than anyone else, operate in a world where appearances drive outcomes. A single dinner with the right people can influence the direction of markets, governments, and industries. The table becomes a stage, and every element on it, from the wine label to the garnish, is carefully curated. In this environment, gold is the punctuation mark. A golden appetizer doesn't just start the meal, it starts the narrative. It signals to guests that they've entered a space where the rules of normal life do not apply. And that's exactly what the host wants. To create an environment of wonder, awe, and hierarchy, all wrapped in a paper-thin sheet of precious metal. That's why edible gold often appears during private negotiations, deal celebrations, or high-stakes social gatherings. It becomes part of the ritual. Not because anyone believes gold holds magical powers, but because it reinforces the magnitude of the moment. A $3 million acquisition toasted with a golden cocktail is more than symbolism. It's a shared memory branded with opulence. The gold helps freeze the moment in the mind, turning it into a story that can be retold, reshared, and reshaped for strategic effect. Even within families of wealth, gold plays an unusual role in generational storytelling. It's not uncommon for children of billionaires to grow up associating gold with milestones, their first gold-dusted cake at a birthday, a golden dessert at a graduation, or a sparkling sushi roll during a family retreat. These memories aren't just sentimental. They're educational. They teach the next generation what power looks like, how it tastes, and how it's performed. By the time these heirs enter adulthood, gold on a plate is no longer a novelty. It's part of their cultural DNA, another signal in the vast and unspoken language of elite behavior. That language becomes even more pronounced when new wealth tries to speak it. For self-made billionaires, gold can serve as a form of entry into established elite circles. When a rising tech founder or crypto magnate hosts a dinner laced with edible gold, it's not just a culinary choice, it's a declaration. It tells old money, I know the code. It's a calculated performance of luxury fluency, using gold as a dialect to bridge the gap between established power and disruptive ascent. In this way, gold becomes not only decoration, but currency in a social transaction. The guest list may change, but the signal remains the same. Meanwhile, luxury brands are keenly aware of gold's resonance. High-end watchmakers, fashion houses, and jewelry designers have all partnered with chefs and restaurants to create limited edition golden experiences. Think of it as edible branding, a gold-plated steak served at a product launch, or a dessert infused with gold leaf and the fragrance notes of a new perfume. These collaborations aren't about taste, they're about transference. By associating their brand with gold, they borrow its permanence, its mythos, and its visual shorthand for prestige. For a luxury brand, being seen next to edible gold is like standing beside a roaring fire. It warms everything in its glow. Of course, this also leads to saturation. When gold becomes too common, it risks losing its magic. That's why ultra-wealthy clients are now demanding new ways to use gold, not just on top of food, but within it, around it, and beyond it. Some luxury restaurants now offer gold-infused cutlery that leaves a faint trace on the lips. Others incorporate gold vapor into their cocktail presentations, creating a golden mist that disappears into the air as guests take their first sip. One private chef in London developed a gold sphere, a hollow orb filled with foie gras and caviar that collapses under heat, revealing a second dish inside. The gold is no longer just an ornament. It's part of the architecture of the experience. And it's not limited to the dining room. In luxury aviation and private yachting, gold-based dishes are carefully curated to travel with clients. On some Gulfstream jets, menus are prepared in advance with gold components sealed in cryo-safe packaging, ready to be assembled mid-flight. Yacht chefs receive briefings that include client preferences for gold-dusted fruits, gold-powdered granola, or golden chocolate bark to accompany imported espresso. In these environments, gold must be stable, beautiful, and adaptable, because the billionaire lifestyle is mobile, and so must be the rituals that define it. What's most fascinating is how gold maintains its silence through all of this. It never speaks. It never changes the flavor. It doesn't announce itself with scent or spice. And yet it controls the mood, dictates the framing of the moment, and demands reverence from those who witness it. That power, subtle yet absolute, is what draws billionaires to it over and over again. In a world where everything is negotiable, gold remains untouchable. Not in its price, but in its symbolism. This is why some billionaires are now taking the concept further, commissioning entirely golden dining sets for private residences, where every plate, fork, and glass carries microscopic gold inlays. One mansion in Beverly Hills boasts a dining room where even the salt is mixed with edible gold crystals. It's not about extravagance. It's about removing every trace of the ordinary. Because when you reach a certain level of wealth, the only true luxury left is never being reminded of the world below. Still, it's important to remember that this obsession with edible gold isn't new. It's a revival. Gold has long been part of ceremonial meals, dating back to ancient Egyptian banquets, Roman feasts, and Mughal palaces. What billionaires are doing today is simply updating an ancient language, using it in modern syntax, for modern purposes. Where kings once used gold to intimidate or enchant rivals, billionaires now use it to signal dominance, attract media, or build personal mythologies. The audience has changed. The stage has evolved. But the performance is still the same. So while the rest of the world sees gold as a commodity, to be saved, traded, or stored, billionaires continue to consume it, reshape it, and redefine it. Not to fill their stomachs, but to feed their legacies. In their hands, gold becomes more than a metal. It becomes a message, carved not in stone, but plated on steak, sprinkled in coffee, and folded into the rituals of power that most will never taste. As gold continues to weave its way through the rituals of the ultra-wealthy, its presence in food reveals something deeper than extravagance. It reveals how billionaires curate not just what they consume, but how they are seen consuming. In a world where everything is documented, replayed, and analyzed, a billionaire's dinner is rarely just a private affair. It becomes part of a larger narrative, a performance of wealth that travels beyond the room it happened in. That's why gold isn't simply decoration, it's strategy. It's there not to nourish the body, but to control perception, to anchor memory, and to build a brand.